Okay, hey everyone. So this is a video about something I've wanted to do for a really long time. But I was just so busy making guns and using my machines to make guns. Even now I'm 3D printing a gun. Um, but I decided to take a break and hash this one idea out just to see if I could do it. And it's rebalancing the mass of a cube. And this isn't a new idea. This has been around for a really long time. So let's go do a quick history lesson. A few years ago, I think an Asian cuber posted a video or a picture about him skeletonizing a cube with tons of cuts, like hundreds of cuts, and it turned into the DNA cube with Chi. But with Chi, they only cut the outside of the cube, and I was thinking like, why don't you cut up the inside of the cube where it matters, where you can make a really light cube with all of the structures in place that make the cube perform really well, but remove all the extraneous mass. But it didn't happen. And another thing that really struck me is one time when I made a mosaic, I laid down on the cubes and I was like, wow, these are supporting my weight. But what if I stood up on the cubes? And I stood, and I was a pretty heavy guy at the time. I think I was like 180, 190 pounds. And I stood on those cubes and nothing bad happened. And it was at that moment in time I realized these cubes are over-engineered. There's so much plastic making them too sturdy. Like, it's nice to have sturdy cubes, but if I want to focus on performance, lightweight, and just min-maxing every single factor possible, you could probably remove all of the mass on that cube. Not all of it, but a lot of the mass on the cube and make it really light and really... I can't describe it. But if someone else wouldn't do it, why shouldn't I just do it? So I took my milling machine, and the milling machine, it gets within a tenth of a millimeter, and I milled out the inside of the cube. And I removed all of the plastic that I thought was extraneous, like, this plastic doesn't really do anything, and you don't really need it. You can also remove plastic here, do this, do that. But on top of that, I didn't just remove as much mass as possible, because if we remember physics, rotational mass requires more force. Or let me rephrase that. When you have a bicycle wheel, the rim of the bicycle wheel, the heavier that rim is, it's going to take a lot more force to accelerate the wheel. Whereas if the hub was really heavy, it doesn't really make that much difference. Because when you have that mechanical advantage, and you think of it as a lever, the farther you are from the fulcrum of the lever, the more force it's going to take to move that lever. And lever, whatever, because the mass farther out has a higher mechanical advantage than mass closer to the fulcrum. And it's the same thing with cubes. If you noticed the MF3, RS3, MF thing, it has screws, and these screws add mass, but the mass of the screw is very close to the core, and because of that, it doesn't have that much of an effect on the actual turning. Holding the cube, that mass, it's a static mass. It doesn't really matter. The mass that really matters is the mass further out from the core, just like the fulcrum of a lever or the rim of a wheel. So you can actually remove, there's some dust on here from the milling, but it doesn't really affect the performance. You can remove that whole portion all the way up into the magnet without affecting the performance of the cube. You can see how much material I've cut from here. And I'll show you, this is an edge that I've removed material from. These parts don't actually do anything for corner cutting or performance. If you were to just completely remove those, the cube would corner cut just as per usual. This is line to line from this angle, and it cuts just fine. This is both directions the same behavior you would see in the normal one. And that's because when you're corner cutting, those surfaces don't actually touch, they don't actually do anything. All that surface does is a structural thing. And if you have enough plastic supporting it, just like the DNA cube, you can really have a sturdy cube, and it doesn't really matter. And you can just remove that mass to create a really light cube. And that's the next thing I noticed. If I really just cared about reducing mass, I could reduce the mass of the feet of the corners, I could go into the centers, I could do even more cuts, but those cuts don't really matter because they're close to the core. This is a balanced cube. The mass is more balanced than the original. And I don't want to call this a lightened cube, I want to call this a balanced cube. And to say another analogy, it's like if your life was like a 7 out of 10, but you didn't know it was a 7 out of 10, and you're happy with life, you're 10 out of 10 happiness. But if you went on and experienced an 8 out of 10 life or a 9 out of 10 life, and life starts getting good, you don't really want to go back to 7 out of 10, even though in that moment you were happy. Once you understand that something exists, you don't want to go back. And that's how I felt with balance. Like, when I used the original MF3 RS thing, it was a great cube, and it still is a very good cube. But after I removed the weight, I experienced this balance, and that's the best way I could describe it. The mass, the springiness, I'm not talking about the springs itself, I'm talking about the motion, the feeling of this cube. Oh, that was M4. Holy crap, I didn't even... That's pretty cool. I didn't know what I was missing until I felt it. And that's what I feel about balance in cubes. And this is just an example. I use this because it's my main, and it's a heavy cube already. But you could apply the same technique to even lighter cubes and create a different balance there. So you might be wondering, well, how can I get a hold of one of these? I messaged Phil a few months back, and like I said earlier in the video, I was too busy, making guns. And I kept thinking to myself, let's just do this idea. So I talked to Phil. I'm going to send him a sample. If he likes it, we'll do this. Just one more product for you guys. Last one. Just one more. And we'll see if people like it or if they feel the same thing. Oh, for the numbers, yes. So this is 93 grams measured on my scale here. And the lightened one, the balanced one, this is 12 grams lighter, which is 13%. This was only 81 grams. And it's the same cube, like performance-wise, just lighter. And even the sound is different. With milling, we can produce custom tracks, custom patterns, custom balances, all kinds of custom things with the magic of CNC milling. The M slices are going to take a lot to get used to. So I'm going to do a few solves. If anything else comes to mind, I'll mention it. But yeah, hopefully we can get this done by, or hopefully I can get this done if it gets approved by like January, maybe December, I don't know. Because another reason why this is probably going to be the last idea is because economically it doesn't make sense. It takes a whole hour to mill out this cube. If you remember the corner I showed you, that was a nice cut. That was a really nice cut. But even though the process is mostly automated, the work holding has to be put, the tool paths have to be optimized, and a lot of that, it just takes a lot of time. Getting everything straightened for that initial work holding, we'll see. But with things like work, as a software engineer and doing things on the side, like I've been talking to Dana a lot about stocks, and just putting money into safe dividend, returning stocks, some nice index funds. I did a little risky thing. I put $5,000 into airline stock because I knew that people were going to fly. Because when I was buying my airline tickets for the holidays, it was $500, and some planes were sold out, and I was like, is everyone just going to ignore like travel restrictions and fly? Because these planes are getting booked. I knew for a fact that people are going to fly. So I put money into airlines, and I've been getting pretty good return off that, and that's like no effort. That's all like gambling and mental thinking, and just even if I just put all of my surplus money from my software job into dividend returning stocks, I would make more money than per time than doing milling. So this is going to be the last one. I just want to get one more product out and literally do this at a loss of my own personal time, just to let people feel the balance of these cubes. Hopefully with the cubicle. If not, then probably just not going to do it, because I don't even have time to do it myself. So yeah, that should be it. Let's do some solves and go from there. Or who else even knows? Maybe I'll get addicted and maybe do another one, but I don't know. Probably not. I'm tempted to turn on the music, but I don't want a copyright strike. Let's restart. Well, oof. I'm getting a lot of PLL because I can see the skips coming. That was a weird one. done. So let's see if, let's just do one more. Actually, no, let's end this on a sub 10. Definitely not this one, though. Alright, this time for real. And if this isn't sub 10, that'll be it. Alright, you know what? One last one. Alright, and that'll be it. So, nice balanced MF3 RS thing. Glad you watched this video. The next video is going to be really cool. I've created this gun. It uses a special Webley Fosbury type magazine with no feed ramp, just direct feed, and a really unique thing that no one's ever done before. And it holds 32 rounds, and it's a pistol, and it's like the coolest gun I've ever made. Completely unique, never before done, and I really enjoy making unique guns. So, see y'all in the next video. Hopefully you see that one.